Public Information Officer for Arapahoe County, and I'm here to welcome you to Conversations with a Commissioner, tonight featuring Commissioner Jeff Baker from Arapahoe County District 3. These events are quarterly gatherings that we prefer to do in person. I know Commissioner Baker really enjoys meeting his constituents out closer to home in person. But of course, with COVID restrictions, we've been doing these virtually since last summer. We are hoping to return to an in-person format sometime this year, perhaps summer this year. And if and when we do that, we will also still be doing the virtual format so we can get the best of both worlds with the high number of participants, and then also those who really want to be there in person or will be able to go out and say hello and ask their questions. The conversations events are designed to inform the constituents in each district about what's going on in the county, what's happened recently, what we expect to be coming up in the rest of the year. And each commissioner does one in their respective district 4 times a year. And the agenda tonight is to talk a little bit about how 2020 finished up and then look ahead to what's on our plate for 2021. So for those of you who are calling in, if you want to ask a question to the commissioner, we're going to give you a little presentation first, and then I'll open it up to audience questions. So if you're calling and want to ask a question, you just dial *3, and that'll put you through to an operator. And if you're online on Facebook or on our Town Hall webpage, you can just put a question in the comments section, and we will get to it as they come in. And with that, I will introduce Commissioner Baker.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Luke. I appreciate it. I'm Jeff Baker. I'm the Arapahoe County Commissioner for District 3, which is the eastern part of Arapahoe County, bordered on the north with Adams County, on the south with Douglas and Elbert County, on the east with Washington County, and my district runs parallel to E470. And a little bit of my district is to the west of E470, but the majority of it is to the east of E470. Little bit about me, introduction and my background. I'm a Denver native. I grew up in South Central Denver. I'm a graduate of South High School, and I am an Army veteran. I'm retired from the United States Army. I was an MP, military policeman, and a criminal investigator in the Army. I retired in 1993 and started working for the Aurora Police Department in their crime lab. And I worked there for about 5 years, and then joined Arapahoe County Human Services. I have 5 years with Arapahoe County Human Services, 13 years with Facilities and Fleet Management, and now 4 years as a county commissioner. I decided to run for office and was elected now twice. I just was reelected last year. I represent the communities of Watkins, Bennett, Byers, Strasburg, and Deer Trail, so the eastern part of Arapahoe County. Tonight, I thank you. If I could go to the next slide. The most pressing matter that all the county commissioners are working on right now is, of course, COVID. We're currently in level yellow. This dial 2.0 changes fairly frequently. Well, not all that frequently, but last week it changed, and all county businesses are now able to operate under the level yellow. Our numbers have been improving recently, and we need to continue this trend to keep our economic recovery going. This is very relevant to the 5-star certification program, which allows approved businesses to operate one level lower than the county's dial level. So, for instance, if we were at level blue or at level yellow like we are now, some of the businesses who have gone through this certification program are eligible to open up under the next lower set of restrictions. And that is something that we like to see, and it's a way to get our businesses back up and running and people being able to get the services that they need. According to this dial, once the state has vaccinated 70% of our folks that are over 70 years old, which is expected to be accomplished by the end of February, then our folks that are certified at the 5-star level will be able to operate at level blue restrictions, which is not quite as onerous restrictions. At the same time, we're working very closely with Tri-County Health Department to create and implement distribution plans for the COVID vaccine. We're taking our guidance on this from the state. How quickly and how broadly we can roll out more vaccinations is highly dependent upon supply allocations and approval of the types of vaccinations that we will see. A lot of other factors go into that, but the upshot is that we're beginning to see some light at the end of the tunnel. It isn't where we would like it to be, but it's definitely getting better. That means we've been able to start vaccinating our population, our senior citizens 65 and older, as well as frontline workers and K through 12 educators and school employees. But if you or someone you know have been able to get the vaccination, we're still urging people to wear masks and distance themselves and take those established practices around social distancing, hand washing, until we're certain that the virus is behind us. If you want to stay up to date on all of these established health measures, you can see on the screen that tricountyhealthdepartment.org, tchd.org, and you can also look at our website as well. Next slide, please. Here's some information about what Arapahoe County has been able to do in regards to our COVID relief in 2020. It's been a very difficult year. There's no question about that. Arapahoe Cares was a program that arose from the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act that was passed last spring. It gave the county $114.5 million to finance COVID-related relief programs and expenses. We shared about 49% of those funds. It was around $56.5 million with our 13 communities in Arapahoe County, our towns and cities in Arapahoe County. We rolled out numerous programs around this whole system of funding that provided much needed relief to our communities. And it included hundreds of county businesses with more than $16 million in grants, helping several hundred households with rent and mortgage assistance. We funded our nonprofit health centers, food banks, and homelessness partners to address behavioral, physical health, food, and housing insecurity needs. We also worked with Stride, Lincoln Health, and Mako to provide testing sites for folks. We're supporting contact tracing and health department needs and augmenting the county's early warning data system. We've also implemented facility improvements consistent with best practices and providing PPE for employees and public guests. We're continuing these critical programs moving forward to support our residents and the businesses in Arapahoe County. Next slide, please. A little bit about our Community Resources Department. CARES funding impact was most visible in our Community Resources and Human Services departments. In many cases, these initiatives expanded on existing programs around things like food and housing security, and workforce development. Our Community Resources Department, working with AD Works, continues to host webinars around hiring, skills training, and retraining to get our citizens back to work as quickly as possible. We're also continuing to administer these programs for veterans and seniors, as well as many others. One recent development in this area was hiring a dedicated staff person to better serve our Veterans Services Office in the city of Aurora. You can find out more about this by visiting adworks.org for more details about all of the programs that Arapahoe Douglas Works offers. Next slide, please. Another department near and dear to my heart is Human Services, since I worked for them for about 5 years in this department that our county offers. We used the CARES funding created by the state to create hotel and motel voucher program for people who are experiencing homelessness as a direct result of COVID, or those who needed a temporary housing because COVID made it unsafe for them to live at home. We had some elderly folks where a husband and wife are partners. One of them came up positive for COVID, and because of their age, it was not safe for their partner to remain in that household with them. So we did some really good work in helping those people weather it out during the time that one or both of them were COVID positive. We also established another program to provide this funding to organizations that are affected by the crisis, such as food banks, Meals on Wheels, and things like that. We used CARES funding to reimburse behavioral and physical health organizations for things like telehealth, personal protective equipment, and sanitation supplies. Among these programs that we've already administered and continue to run, we're very excited about one called GOALS, GOALS. That stands for Generational Opportunities to Achieve Long-Term Success. This is a bridge housing project that serves families who are going through homelessness. It's a part of our two-generation approach, which is the practice of intentionally and simultaneously serving the whole family, especially children and the adults together in their lives. We also address a lot of the needs of vulnerable adults, elderly folks, and their caregivers. Of course, we continue to provide food and financial benefits and protective services for children and adults. All of these programs are seeing a lot of increased demand as a result of the economic and social fallout from this pandemic that we're going through. Next slide, please. Let's talk a little bit about our 2021 budget. We're trying to be fiscally very conservative this year. We're looking into our crystal ball. No one anticipated COVID. I mean, let's face it, we were caught unawares. The full economic effects of this crisis are still unfolding. We're trying to get our crystal ball back up and running. Hopefully that'll happen here pretty soon. The county may not experience all of these things that you're seeing on the screen until 2022 because property taxes are our primary source of revenue. And 2021 is an assessment year. That means that we won't know about the property values until after they're assessed by our assessor's office and how this COVID crisis is affecting property values. With all of that in mind, the entire county is operating with even more fiscal restraint than usual this year. It's a year of belt tightening. A big part of last year was finalizing a new strategic plan for the county, which sets standards for our the actions that we take, decisions, and how we determine to more efficiently use the funds that we get from our taxpayers. We want to be able to give exceptional services to every resident and business in Arapahoe County. Given all of these economic stressors that this pandemic has created, We want to use this strategic plan to help keep our fiscal house in order, and that will be a top priority for the board. This includes cutting or eliminating unnecessary expenses. That's always been something that Arapahoe County has taken a lot of effort to accomplish. We run a pretty tight ship. That's not new to the county. All of our departments are performing audits to identify potential savings. We've been pretty pleased with how well we've been able to keep providing essential county services, even while many of our employees are working remotely, and we'll continue to examine our operations with the goal of maximizing the effectiveness and efficiency. But we have a number of financial challenges, specifically around aging infrastructure and strained facilities, none of which is more important than our detention center, our jail. One of the things that the board and all of the citizens of Arapahoe County will be evaluating this year is the best way to address this problem moving forward. Now, I have to tell you, if there was ever any silver lining to COVID, um, one of those is forcing the county commissioners to determine whether we can reduce two of the primary types of assets. The biggest thing that the county owns are buildings and vehicles. And so, under this new way of doing business, we have to be able to look at whether we can reduce the number of buildings and the number of cars, trucks, and vehicles that we're operating. I am the liaison this year to our Facilities and Fleet Management Department and to our Public Works Department. So, in that role as being the liaison to those two departments, I'll be able to help address that and will play a pretty large role in determining whether we can cut expenses even more. Next slide, please. Another big thing that we're doing this year is our Open Spaces Master Plan. We're working through the final stages of this plan. You may know that a quarter-cent sales tax helps fund parks, trails, and open spaces in the county. And now that the program's been around for quite a few years, we want to be able to plan for the future. The master plan will create a strategy for preserving open space in Arapahoe County and examine how we care for and enhance the lands that we've currently set aside to be preserved and to allow for people to enjoy. And it will also help us to make the case for possibly extending the tax into the future. Part of this process will likely involve asking voters to approve a renewal of the sales tax, the current sales tax, 1/4%, so that we can keep offering these programs, these open spaces in our program. Watch for upcoming opportunities to engage with our Open Spaces team to find out more about the ways in which we hope to acquire new open spaces and effectively manage those that are already in our portfolio. Next slide, please. Our Transportation Master Plan. We're in the process of building out this Transportation Master Plan. Transportation is always a hot topic for anyone who drives in the metro area. Even during the pandemic, traffic has quickly gotten back to near the levels that we saw before the pandemic. As the county continues to grow, and by that I mean by population, we must work with our city partners, our municipal partners, and our residents to make sure that we can help manage the growth and traffic congestion and look for alternative modes of transportation. We've been engaging with cities to figure out if there's a better way to fund our infrastructure countywide. I am in the chair of the Arapahoe County Transportation Forum, which is a subgroup of DRCOG, the Denver Regional Council of Governments. And in that role, I've been working with all of our different cities and towns in order to try to come up with a plan for how best to address congestion and the deteriorating roads that we have. We've encouraged citizens to participate throughout this process through things such as interactive commenting tools, survey maps on our website, and other online communication tools. I want to say thank you to those who have participated. Anybody who has submitted comments, ideas, or questions, you can find all that information on our website. So that's a great thing if you're interested in how to help us out in transportation. That's my presentation, and now I guess we're going to take some questions. Luke?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. Before we open it up to audience questions, I just want to remind everybody that if you're calling in and want to talk to the Commissioner about something, you dial *3 and you'll get put through to an operator. And if you are watching online on our Facebook page or on the our website town hall page, you can file a question into the comments section and we will get to that. Commissioner brought up a lot of stuff we can talk about now. One thing I should mention is that you probably guessed that neither the Commissioner nor I are medical experts. So we cannot give you any real medical advice about the vaccines or about COVID. We can give you some logistical information. Generally speaking, we always invite people to go to Tri-County's health site, Tri-County Department of Health's website, because that's where the latest information about where to get vaccinated, how to sign up, that kind of stuff is. Also, I should mention that they have a call center that has recently expanded its hours, and the number for that is 303-220-9200. So they can answer the nuts and bolts questions about vaccinations and that kind of thing. So with that in mind, I wanted to jump back to a couple things that you were talking about. You mentioned that you're the liaison to fleet and facilities, and then you, of course, worked there in the past. Can you tell people a little bit about what fleet and facilities does? Because it's one of those departments that I think flies under the radar a little bit.
Sure, no problem. It's a interior facing department in Arapahoe County. In other words, we serve the needs of the county employees in the county departments to make sure that they have the physical plant space necessary to perform their duties. So in my 13 years with facilities and fleet management, I did a lot of projects where I remodeled certain portions of the buildings that we have to make it more efficient for them, to make it easier for them to serve the public and to accomplish the very important work that they do. They also have, of course, our custodial group and building maintenance. So they're taking care of our physical plant. When something goes wrong with a boiler or a HVAC system, sidewalks need to be shoveled in the winter for snow. That's a big part of what they do. And of course, the custodians are taking care of our buildings every day, making sure that they're clean and healthy. That's even more important now. If you do have an occasion to need to come to one of our Arapahoe County buildings, you can rest assured that very frequently our custodian folks are out there cleaning off all surfaces that people will come in contact with. So that's a big part of what we do. We have a project management office. We have a project management office that takes care of the remodeling that's necessary every now and then in our county buildings. And we get funds to make sure that our physical plants are safe and access is available to all of our citizens. Does that answer your question, Luke?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I can attest that our custodial staff and our remodeling folks have put in so many safety measures in the last year that we work out of the admin building in Littleton, and it's never been cleaner and safer from any kind of contamination. So we really appreciate that.
Go ahead,
sorry.
Sorry, I forgot almost. I talked most about facilities because that was the part of the department that I came from, but we can't pass up fleet. all of the county vehicles, from passenger vehicles all the way to heavy duty trucks and the road plows that are out there on county roads, making sure that the snow is removed. So they do a great job as well. I wanted to make sure I didn't um, leave them out.
Yeah, and that's some high-end equipment. I remember when I first started being, shocked that something like a modern road grader is like a $300,000 piece of equipment. I mean, it's no joke how expensive that stuff can get.
Definitely, and it's got to be safe too.
Exactly. And the technology is always evolving and that kind of thing. Um, so let's go to a phone question. I'm going to start with Mary from Aurora. She has a question about vaccines. We will do our best to answer this. So, Mary, you are live.
Hello. I am a senior citizen, 79 years old, and have received both of my vaccinations with Kaiser. I have a group of friends, about 20 of them, who are in their upper 70s or 80s. Most of them are on 2 or 3 lists waiting to get their vaccinations. And there's only one other person in that group of 20 who has also received 2 vaccinations. While I am very concerned about my friends, and of course they are too, at the same time, my son and daughter-in-law, both who are teachers, were able to get vaccinated through Kaiser and have their first vaccination. This has happened while my senior citizen friends who have underlying conditions and are mostly homebound because they're trying to comply with all the suggestions that elderly people should follow, have not moved from being on 2 or 3 lists to being actually given appointments. I'm wondering why this is happening and if there is some solution that I can give my friends. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I have to admit, this is the kind of story I've heard a lot about recently. Um, I know that our Tri-County Health Department and our medical facilities are doing the very best that they can. This is unprecedented. This has never happened to us. So we're working under the constraints that are sometimes put on our healthcare professionals by the state government or the federal government. Um, I know there are a lot of stories like the one that we're hearing from you tonight. And I just want to let you know that if there's anything that I can do for you at the end of the presentation, my email address is jbaker@arapahoegov.com. There's my email address again. It's hard for me on this kind of platform to be able to say why this is happening. I'd much prefer to allow our Tri-County Health Department to be able to answer some of these questions for you. And I can refer you directly to the folks that can answer that question. And they'll be much, but I hear stories like this. So it's not only you that are experiencing this. I can tell you that you need to tell your friends um, to stay on those lists, to keep up with them and keep watching their email, keep watching their phones for those phone calls to come in, and they'll try to get to everyone as quickly as they can. Again, this is an unprecedented situation. It's going to get better as more vaccine doses are made available. I heard that they just approved a new 1-dose vaccine. I don't know when that will become available. Right now, everyone is going through a 2-dose vaccine. You take one shot and then you have to wait a certain amount of time before you get the other shot. And that in itself is kind of complicated for our health care professionals to be able to keep people to make sure that they get both shots, because both shots are necessary. I wish I had better answers for you. Unfortunately, all I can say is stay in touch with Tri-County Health Department or your medical provider.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. It's definitely a complex issue. We're seeing some lights at the end of the various tunnels. We did a vaccine-focused town hall a few weeks ago, which is, if you want to listen to the recording on our website, it's arapahogov.com/town hall. Just look for the vaccination town hall from, I believe it was late January. One of the surprising outcomes of that was that the medical experts on the call were encouraging people to sign up at multiple sites for a test. Get an appointment wherever you can. Just make sure you keep the appointment when you get it, and then if you get one, then you can cancel the other ones that you don't need anymore. But there's a lot of moving parts. It starts with federal supply, it starts with governor's orders, it starts with health department's orders, and then by the time it gets to us, we're just trying to point people in the right directions as much as we can. So thank you for that question. And let's go to another phone question. This is COVID related. I think we can probably tag team this one. This is Luann. Go ahead, Luann. You are live.
Thank you for taking my call. I just want to know, what is the criteria from going from one phase to another? I'm in the 65 age group, and they're already talking about getting into another phase, and I have not been able to get one appointment.
Are you asking the phase for vaccines?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, what is the criteria to go from one phase to another when for 3 weeks I've been trying to get an appointment and I can't get one?
Have you?
Now,
Go ahead.
I've signed up on probably 6 or 7 websites. I've looked at King Soopers, Safeway, Walmart, Sam's, Walgreens, and I was told that National Jewish had appointments. Well, they were doing 70 plus. So I'm just wondering, they're already talking about going to the next phase. Why would they do that when, like me, and I'm sure other people have not gotten an appointment? And I'm also on a cancellation list. I don't know what more to do. I don't know if you could answer, or I guess my main question is, what's the criteria to move from one phase to the next when you don't even know, or whoever decides that doesn't know that a majority of the people have been vaccinated? Also, I am an individual. I don't have a specific group backing me, like the teachers or
Right.
certain races or certain zip codes. And I just don't know what else to do. Or should I just keep waiting until the end of the year?
Well, again, I think everyone is suggesting that you sign up for as many lists as you can. Did you say that you're 65, Luann?
She said she was 65 plus. Sorry, I ended the call.
That's
yeah,
okay.
65 plus.
She's 65 or older, and right now they're doing 70 and older. So that's why you're on a waiting list, as am I. You really do. They'll make a decision to move to the next lower group after they've reached certain threshold. They know they're not going to be able to say that they've vaccinated 100% of those 70 years and older, mainly because there are some folks that are declining to be vaccinated. And that's fine. That's within their right to be able to do that. But again, it's something that I would encourage you to keep your eye on. Tri-County Health Department's website. Tri-County Health Department is a wealth of information, and they will return your calls. It may take a while. It may take several days to get a call back, but They will answer their email. They will answer. They will return your phone call when they have a chance. And Tri-County Health Department has been taking on the yeoman's amount of work here. They're very diligent in what they do, but right now there's no way everyone who wants to be vaccinated can be vaccinated, even within the age groups. So again, they're working right now on the 65 and older, and 70 and older. Luke, do you have anything else you want to add to that?
One of the things that seems to come up a lot is why are we vaccinating the next group on the list when we haven't finished the first group on the list? And the way I understand it is that it's designed to make sure that the fewest number of vaccination doses as possible is wasted. So if we've gotten, for example, this isn't an actual number, but let's say we've gotten 65% of the 70 and overs vaccinated. Well, let's start opening it up more to the next age group, whether that's an age group or a professional category like teachers. That way we can start to keep the flow going in terms of who's getting vaccinated, how frequently. We're starting to get more consistent shipments from the federal government and the vaccine manufacturers. So the idea is, as the commissioner said, getting vaccinated is a personal choice. You don't have to if you don't want to. But if you're over 70, you're on a list of people who are over 70 and live in the county or the state or whatever. So if you may or may not want to get vaccinated, if you're one of those who doesn't, then that's fine. But the government needs to get to the 70% threshold before they move on to other phases. I hope that's somewhat clarifying. I don't know if it is or not, but the whole reason that this is this confusing is so that we're not wasting doses, because there's very specific requirements for how long they can be stored, very low temperatures, that kind of thing. So they just want to make sure that stuff doesn't go to waste. And that's why you're going to see a little more blending of the zones. The other thing is that Governor Polis is making these decisions from the top. And we've been challenged as communicators, as county officials and so forth, to relay his messages. So that, for example, the Dial 2.0 that the commissioner mentioned earlier in the presentation, Governor Polis has already told us that there's going to be a Dial 3.0 sometime in the spring or summer. We don't know what that looks like. I don't even think he knows what it looks like yet, but he knows it's going to change. So, we're doing our best to keep everybody as informed as possible. Obviously, it's an imperfect science, but like the commissioner said, Tri-County is always the best resource, either their website or their call center. So with that, one more reminder about asking questions. If you're on the phone, you want to dial *3 to be put through to an operator. And if you're online, you can put it in the comments section and we will see it here on our little dashboard. Let's shift gears a little bit here. I have a question from an online person named Pearson, who's asking, is there a way to volunteer my time to help while I'm unemployed?
Definitely there is. Thank you for asking that, Pearson. The county, there's some restrictions. The number of our volunteers has gone down recently. We used to always take a lot more volunteers when there were not so many restrictions on who can be helping. But I would encourage you to look at the county website and look for the links to the Tri-County Health Department. And also you can look under Arapahoe County for volunteer opportunities. Now, some of those opportunities are lower right now because of what we're going through. Right now, we're planning for the county fair to come up, and there could be some opportunities to have the county fair this year. We're not sure exactly how that will look because of COVID. We have to look at the rates, and the rates change fairly quickly. So we're looking at how we can continue to possibly have the county fair, or to help those kids that have been involved in 4-H projects. and their animals are ready to be shown, and we want to make sure that we can do that. So there are opportunities out there. I would encourage you to look at our website, and I think there's a section called Opportunities to Volunteer. And that could be with our health professionals at Tri-County Health Department, or it could be even here in the county, trying to get us back to normal somewhat.
Yeah, if you go to the Arapahoe Gov website and look for volunteer connections, they have links to any number of volunteer opportunities. And, you know, there are quite a few COVID-related ones. We're actually about to share a story with the world about our Shoppers for Seniors program, which connects seniors that are unable to get around as freely, and particularly lately, with nearby people who live nearby and have volunteered to help them get groceries and go to the pharmacy and that kind of stuff. That's a great program. And so there are quite a few things you still can do. So thank you for that question. I have another, excuse me, health related question here. I think this is related to getting help from the county, in-home help. So let's ask Brenda, you are live with us.
Thank you. The reason I called is, number one, is concerning the injections of the vaccine. I'm in my 70s. My husband's in his 70s. And we had not gotten any word, nothing. We have signed up for things. We've had friends sign up for us. But we're not being heard. When I was extremely ill, when I needed assistance helping me to get around and move around, there was nobody there to help me, and no one at all to listen to an elderly person that's having trouble maneuvering and walking to get her things done or get dressed. When you're home alone, it makes it extremely difficult. You worry about the young. The young have very good immune systems. I have nothing. I have been stuck in this house for a little over a year now. The only time I've gotten out of it is a couple of times to see my doctors. Otherwise, it's video. Now, when you need somebody to do something, you don't want to be dependent on your neighbors, because then they'll feel that, why isn't there somebody out there also trying to help the elderly?
I can hear
And you're not.
in your voice. And part of that comes down to where you live. If you live in the unincorporated area of Arapahoe County, or you live in a city, because the cities do a lot along that lines as well. So that would be the first thing, is determining whether you're a resident of unincorporated Arapahoe County or within a city, an incorporated city like Aurora or Englewood, Sheridan, Littleton, like that. All of these different entities have homemaker services to help folks, to give folks the help that you're asking for here. We have a program called Senior Connections in the county, and we can, Luke, can we get their phone number?
Yeah, I took down Brenda's. We'll have somebody call her and get some more details. But like you say, if she's in an incorporated area, the city might be better than the county. But if she's in unincorporated, then maybe there's more that we can do. So I took her number down.
Great. And we do work really well with our city partners, whether trying to find out, sometimes determining whether someone lives on one side of a street or another side of the street determines whether they're in the city or and eligible for the city programs, or whether they're in the unincorporated part of the county and where we can help them. But there is help for folks out there. And for anyone else that wants to look up on our website, look for something called Senior Connections.
Excellent. I'm going to shift gears a little bit here into transportation, which I know is a hot issue out in your part of the world. One of our online questioners is saying, why were the northbound on and off ramps for E470 in Quincy changed from the original design?
Well, E470 in Quincy, that's quite a project that's just coming to a close right now. And so they were changed in order to accommodate this whole new configuration of Quincy and Gun Club Road and E470. So that's a big project, multi-million-dollar project that I think you'll see that it's going to be a lot more efficient, a lot more fuel efficient, especially. You won't have to stop for as long. That's definitely in my area. I go through that whole area several times a week, and it's a very unique type of configuration here in Colorado. It's going to take some getting used to, I know, but the off-bound ramps for E470 had to be reconfigured in order to accommodate the entire project that took about 2 years to get completed out there.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe verbally, but it's sort of, I guess, analogous to the roundabouts that you see in certain places, but applied to an on and off ramp situation. Once it's up and running, it sounds like it will help traffic flow in that area considerably. So
it's called a partial continuous flow intersection.
Right, exactly. So yeah, continuous flow intersection. It's a cool development. Speaking of E470, it's been in the news since last fall that there's some talk of selling all or part of it to an outside vendor. Can you talk about what the county's role and position is in that?
I sure can. The E470 authority, I'm an alternate. Our other commissioner, Bill Holen, is the primary member of that organization, the E470 board. But I attend just about every single one of those meetings, so I try to keep myself up to speed on exactly what's going on with E470. They received an unsolicited proposal from a company that is proposing to take over all operations of E470, pay off a lot of the debt that E470 currently has, and accomplish a lot of projects with and they would be in charge of setting the rates, the toll rates, as part of that proposal to them. It went to E470. It was an unsolicited proposal. It's something that the board, the E470 board, has looked at in great detail. They've looked at it with a fine-tooth comb. They've looked at it with a magnifying glass. And there are some, I have to be careful here about exactly how I word this. There are some challenges. And first of all, this proposal was not solicited. E470 did not ask for anyone to submit a proposal to take over its operations and collect all the tolls and pay off the debt. There's some advantages to doing that, but again, this was unsolicited. They did not ask for this proposal to come in. It was thoroughly reviewed by the E470 board, which has determined that if a time comes when they do want to outsource the ownership of an operation of E470, that they will issue their own proposal, request for proposals, and solicit things. But right now, the proposal, the unsolicited proposal that this company has provided to E470 has not been deemed acceptable at this point. So it has been rejected. It has been turned down. We were, I think, when I say we, I consider myself part of E470, was very polite in saying, thank you for submitting this. We told them everything that we had looked at in that review. Again, Commissioner Bill Holen is the primary Arapahoe County representative on that board. I'm his alternate, so I do try to keep up on things that are going on at E470. And that's one of the things that I paid particular attention to. So it has been declined. We've politely said, thank you for the proposal, but we're not interested in turning over complete ownership and operation of E470 to a private entity at this time. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. Now we have another phone question, again, transportation related, this time relating to snowplows. This is Dennis from Strasburg. Dennis, go ahead, you're live.
Yes, until 2 years ago, we had good maintenance on our roads in our area, which is Strasburg Heights. When these properties were built, they had to dedicate land to building these roads, and those roads were then dedicated to the county. Like I said, until 2 years ago, they were being maintained. We don't get snowplow service anymore. They no longer come and clean the ditches, even though there's a dedicated right-of-way along those ditches that we can't cut into. We're wondering why they stopped the service down our roads in Strasburg Heights. I live on Wolf Creek Drive.
Okay. Thank you for your question, first of all. That's a difficult question to answer because if it's not on and all of our snow routes in the county can be looked at our Public Works Department online. And you can see all of the things. Nothing has changed in the last 2 years. So what I would say is it might have been that a certain area might have been being done, even though it was not on the list of required routes to plow. At some point, we did have to look at that. Our Road and Bridge Division has done a good job of looking at, and of course, we have some priorities in the county. One of those is public safety around schools, and those will be on our plow routes. We haven't, I don't believe, had any change in the last 2 years. So I encourage you to contact Brian Weimer at our Public Works Department, and he will be able to get some more definitive answers because in my view, nothing has changed, at least within the last 5 to 7 years. So why something was being done before, it may have been just the difference between a plow truck driver being able to do that, and then he may have left the county and a new one came in, or a new guy was trained to take over that route. That's the best answer that I can give you at this point.
And the way to reach, best way to reach Brian Weimer is his email, which is bweimer, BWEIMER @arapahoegov.com. All county emails are first initial, last name. So, all right, we have time for one or two more questions here. I did want to bring up a couple of things that the commissioner talked about earlier. One is our small business relief fund that came up in the AD Works slide and community resources. We have extended the small business relief fund thanks to some additional money that we got from the state. Applications were going to end this weekend, but now we're pushing them back to next week. So if you or someone you know owns a small business and could use some COVID relief, I would encourage you to go to arapahoegov.com/SBRF and look at the requirements there to see if you qualify. And then the other thing, we've had a lot of transportation calls tonight. The transportation master plan, part of that, as the commissioner mentioned, is getting a lot of public feedback. And we just put out a press release today about a survey about the 24 corridors. Our public works folks have identified 24 corridors that cut through and around and over and above the county. basically the main routes that all of us take from one time or another. So we're looking for public feedback about priorities, what people think is the biggest need or the biggest lack, or what should be top priority. We always love to hear from residents, and obviously folks in District 3 have different considerations than folks in other districts. But I know that transportation and congestion is a big topic out there all the time. So go to our transportation master plan link, which is arapahogov.com/transportation plan. And you can get more information about that survey. That's going to be open until March 19th. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask another online question. This is Jared, and he is asking how Commissioner Baker is assisting to uphold the standards in Arapahoe County during the pandemic so that law enforcement is supported and that the laws are being upheld as intended. This has obviously been a very taxing time in many ways for our law enforcement folks.
Well, thank you for that question. It was Jared, I believe. And
yes.
I just wanted to say, Jared, thank you very much. As a former law enforcement officer, again, in the Army, I was an MP and a CID special agent. And when I first retired from the Army, I worked for the Aurora Police Department. And so that background, I have a special connection with our sheriff and all of the sheriff's office. And I can tell you that they're making do to the best of their ability. Our law enforcement officers are a step above. They truly are the elite of Arapahoe County. I'm at the risk of alienating the other employees, but I think anyone who wears a gun and a badge needs to be a step above, and I believe that they are. The sheriff's office does a great job of trying to redirect resources to where they're needed, and I've supported him in that. I also am a member of the regional crime lab that we have. I worked for the Aurora Police Crime Lab for many years, and that background gives me a special insight into that forensic investigation aspect of the sheriff's operations. So I've stayed a part of the law enforcement family, even though I'm not carrying a gun and a badge anymore. So they are doing what they can, sometimes with very little appreciation. I think all of the Board of County Commissioners, from all of us, know that our sheriff's office and the deputies that are serving the public good need to make sure that they are have the right equipment, the right vehicles, and are able to get out there and support our citizens in the law enforcement field. Remind me of the question again, Luke. I'm kind of got lost.
He's wondering, as someone with law enforcement background and now as a county commissioner, what can you do specifically to just sort of support them, I guess, and make sure that that they're able to enforce the laws that they're sworn to protect and uphold?
Well, I hope this doesn't sound too, but we have to stop the state legislature from putting undue burdens on them, for one thing. I'm sorry to be so. There are so many different rules and laws that are being passed by the state legislature that govern and may even restrict our law enforcement officers' abilities to serve the public, to serve and protect the public. So I'm doing what I can to try and help at the state level. We receive through Colorado Counties Incorporated and other organizations that we belong to, we get kind of advance notice of bills that are being proposed. And we interact with our state legislators to try and change some of those laws that are being considered for the better. Sometimes at that level, they may not know exactly how hard it is to be a cop on a beat, how to be providing law enforcement services in this environment where there's some animosity and the danger is great for them. So all I can tell you is that with my prior background in law enforcement, I support our sheriff's office 100%. Now, that's not to say that if someone makes a mistake, if someone violates somebody's rights, if someone doesn't follow protocols, that they won't be subject to disciplinary action. We take that very seriously. There are rules in effect for them, and we hold them to a higher standard. But I can tell you that we're trying, the Board of County Commissioners supports our sheriff's office 100%, and we try to be one legislative arm to try and get funding and equipment and resources for them when it's needed, and also try to fight against possibly legislation that would impact their ability to do their job to the utmost possible, that they can service that they provide to our citizens. I hope that answers your question.
Absolutely. And it actually raised another question for me. Can you talk a little bit about, you mentioned that you interact with state legislators. What is the process for that? And what is the county's role or a county commissioner's role in influencing legislation that's happening up in Denver?
Sure. We stay mostly through our organizations that we belong to. We're, of course, members of CCI, Colorado Counties Incorporated. I also belong to a group called Pro 15. That is a consortium of the 15 northeastern counties in Arapahoe County, or in the state of Colorado. And we voice our concerns about proposed legislation through a number of different avenues. Through Colorado Counties Incorporated, and through any other avenue that we have. We contact our state legislators by phone. We have their phone numbers. Oftentimes they reach out to us. We've had representatives reach out to us about rules that they're wanting to change. Here in, of course, we had the census last year. And so this year, what's supposed to be happening is a revision of how we do. I'm blanking here. Redistricting and things like that. Redrawing of the county commissioners' districts. Right. And there are certain things that have to happen before that takes place. Well, there's a bill that's being proposed at the state legislature that we got involved with early. It will impact 3 counties: El Paso, Arapahoe, and Weld counties. And we took the initiative to try to work with our state legislator to try and get that, some of the more onerous aspects of that proposed legislation, to get it eased and make it less costly for Arapahoe County, because we are funded by taxpayer dollars and we want to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. So that is an example of the kind of things that we do.
Excellent. All right, we've shot past an hour here, so I think we can wrap it up. But I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Again, our conversations with the commissioner happens with each of the 5 commissioners. We do it quarterly, so the next one will probably be sometime in May, and we will be, giving you new information all the time between now and then. And we look forward to seeing you again. So thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.